Overthinking doesn't come from thinking too much. Overthinking comes from trying to control life where control was never meant to exist. That's why you feel constantly tense. Why every decision feels heavy, as if your entire future depends on getting it right. One thought gives birth to another. Every choice creates anxiety, and the harder you try to calculate every outcome, the further you drift from yourself. The mind tells you that if you let go, everything will fall apart. But in truth, that fear is the very thing holding you hostage. Ancient sages and mystics understood a hidden truth. The mind was never designed to lead your life. It is a tool, not a ruler. And when the tool takes the throne, inner chaos becomes inevitable. By the end of this video, you'll see why overthinking ends the moment you let go. Not because you gave up, but because you finally allow life to move through you instead of against you. And that realization changes everything. We live in a world that prizes certainty as though it were the ultimate marker of success and wisdom, as though to know and predict everything were the highest form of power. And yet life, by its very nature, resists such certainties. Each moment is fluid, unpredictable, and alive with possibilities that no mind can fully capture. Thoughts rush through us like a relentless river, carrying images, scenarios, worries, and hopes. Often we react as if we must control this current, as if the weight of our grip can prevent it from sweeping us off course. Overthinking emerges precisely in this act of resistance, a belief that the mind must anticipate, arrange, and manage outcomes to protect us from chaos. But the deeper truth is paradoxical. The more we attempt to control, the more entangled and overwhelmed we become, and the very clarity we seek becomes obscured by mental turbulence. Overthinking is not merely a habit, it is a reflection of misaligned perception. It convinces us that wisdom comes from accumulation of scenarios, possibilities, predictions, and judgments. But clarity is never found in accumulation alone. The mind magnifies risks, spins out potential failures, and overlays imagined consequences atop reality, creating a world of shadows and echoes. Anxiety is born not from external events, but from the tension that arises when the mind identifies with these projections and mistakes them for reality. It is a subtle trap, a cycle that promises security yet delivers distress, exhausting the very energy we need to act authentically. The genuine path, the path that resonates with our deepest being, is not carved through mental force or relentless calculation. It is discovered in the delicate art of observing without clinging. The mind, for all its brilliance, is ultimately a reflection, a mirror of desires, fears, and patterns, not the source of truth itself. When we become entangled in these reflections, we mistake the mirror for reality, and our journey becomes one of struggle rather than discovery. The river of life flows regardless of our grip, and it cannot be coerced or predicted, but it can be navigated if we learn to move in harmony with its current rather than against it. Releasing control does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means understanding that thought alone cannot dictate reality. Letting go creates space where intuition, subtle guidance, and natural alignment can emerge. Anxiety diminishes not because circumstances change, but because the mind stops insisting on dominance over what is inherently fluid. Moments that once felt overwhelming become opportunities for insight. Encounters that seemed random acquire significance, and the path forward reveals itself in ways the mind could not have engineered. This is not magic in the whimsical sense. It is the intelligence of life operating according to principles that are subtle, precise, and responsive to awareness. Overthinking also distorts our experience of time. When the mind clings, every second is urgent, every decision loaded with imagined consequences, every moment charged with tension. But in releasing, time expands, pressure dissipates. The past loses its grip, and the future is no longer a threat. Life is experienced as a continuous unfolding, where each moment contributes to a pattern too vast for the mind to design, but perfectly orchestrated in its own subtle logic. The moments we use to resist become integral to the unfolding of our genuine path, and we begin to see that life's rhythm has always been guiding us, even when we were unaware. There is also a profound relational dimension to this. Overthinking often arises in response to the world outside, to what others might think, how events might unfold, and how circumstances might affect us. Yet the path of authenticity cannot be dictated by external judgment or by projected outcomes. Release is an act of reclaiming authority over one's own awareness, by choosing not to allow the mind's projections to dominate perception. By observing without reacting, by noticing patterns without being ensnared, we cultivate clarity, discernment, and a subtle alignment with life that transcends circumstance. Ultimately, the expanded understanding of overthinking is this: it is both a signal and an invitation. It signals that the mind has been attempting to control what cannot be controlled, that energy has been misdirected, and that tension has obscured insight. It invites the conscious practitioner to step back, to witness, to release, and to allow guidance to emerge naturally. In doing so, the currents of life, once feared as chaotic, become allies. The river no longer threatens, it carries us, with precision and intelligence, toward opportunities, growth, and experiences that align with our deeper purpose. The genuine path is revealed not through force, calculation, or incessant mental effort. It is revealed in the spaces between thoughts, in the quiet observance of patterns, in the moment when we stop trying to bend life to our will and start aligning with its rhythm. Anxiety fades, clarity emerges, and the mind, once restless and overburdened, becomes a subtle instrument for discernment and presence. By letting go of resistance, by moving with life rather than against it, we discover that the currents of existence have always been guiding us, and that the path we sought so desperately through control and calculation was never hidden. It was only obscured by the weight of our own overthinking. Beneath the surface of conscious thought, there exists a subtle mechanism, an intelligence that operates quietly, invisibly, yet with a precision and responsiveness far beyond anything the mind can manufacture. Most of us move through life as if insight, clarity, and direction come from effort, calculation, and control. We believe that if we think long enough, plan carefully enough, and analyze thoroughly enough, we can engineer the outcomes we desire. And yet, life rarely conforms to this logic. The more we attempt to force clarity with the mind alone, the more tangled, restless, and anxious we become. The hidden mechanism, however, works differently. It responds not to effort, but to presence, not to struggle, but to alignment, not to obsession, but to the subtle attentiveness of the conscious observer. Consider how overthinking operates. It convinces us that certainty is attainable, that preparation alone can guarantee safety and success. The mind projects countless scenarios, evaluates endless possibilities, and imagines threats and failures at every turn. Anxiety grows in direct proportion to this mental activity, as the mind attempts to control what is inherently uncontrollable. Yet, this mechanism, the intelligence beneath thought, does not need control to function. It needs attention without clinging. It thrives in the spaces where the mind is still, in the quiet awareness that watches without interference, in the moments when observation replaces obsession. Insight, intuition, and guidance emerge not from accumulation of thought, but from alignment with this mechanism. It is as if life itself is listening, not to your frantic plotting, not to your obsessive calculations, but to the subtle resonance of your being. When you stop forcing outcomes, when you release the need to control every variable, patterns begin to reveal themselves, and synchronistic events occur that cannot be explained by logic alone. Solutions appear effortlessly. Clarity arrives naturally. Paths that once seemed hidden now open, as if life itself has been waiting for you to step aside and allow its intelligence to operate freely. This mechanism is ancient, fundamental, and universal. Mystics have described it as flow, grace, or the intelligence of existence itself. It is not bound by time or circumstance, and it is always active, always responsive, always precise. But it cannot be accessed through control, struggle, or overthinking. Attempting to manipulate it only obstructs its operation. Anxiety, stress, and overthinking are symptoms that you are interfering with its natural function, that you are mistaking projection for reality and effort for influence. The hidden mechanism requires no extraordinary skill. It does not demand cleverness, force, or planning. It responds to trust, to attention, to the quiet willingness to release resistance. When the mind softens, when tension dissolves, when the compulsion to control subsides, the mechanism begins to reveal its work. You begin to notice subtle nudges, fleeting ideas, synchronistic coincidences, and intuitive impressions that guide your steps. The world seems to shift around you in response to alignment rather than effort, and solutions to problems emerge without the friction and struggle you had assumed were necessary. Even the smallest act of letting go strengthens this mechanism. Each time you release a worry, a need to anticipate, or an imagined outcome, you create a space for the intelligence of life to operate unimpeded. Insights appear with astonishing clarity. Moments that once seemed random now carry meaning. Encounters and opportunities arise in ways that cannot be explained by logic alone, yet feel perfectly orchestrated. This is not luck. It is the natural result of attuning yourself to the hidden intelligence that has always been working beneath the surface of thought. Ultimately, the hidden mechanism is a reminder that life does not operate on force but on resonance. The mind is a tool, not a master. Thought is a servant, not the source of guidance. Overthinking and control are barriers to the subtle currents that guide existence. When you release your grip, step back and observe with openness, this mechanism begins to operate fully. Insight becomes immediate, guidance becomes visible, and the path toward authenticity becomes unmistakable. It is always there, quietly waiting, always precise, always responsive, ready to reveal the genuine path the moment you stop interfering and allow life itself to take the lead. The key to liberation, to discovering the path that is authentically yours, is deceptively simple yet profoundly transformative: letting go. This is the law of release, a principle that runs quietly beneath the surface of all spiritual teachings, a truth recognized by sages, mystics, and seekers throughout time. And yet, it is so rarely understood. Letting go is not about abandoning responsibility, neglecting your life, or succumbing to passivity. It is, in fact, a conscious act of alignment, a decision to step out of the illusion that the mind must control outcomes and to acknowledge that life's intelligence operates on a level far beyond the reach of constant planning and anxiety. Think of what occurs when we cling to outcomes, insisting that every detail must unfold according to our expectations. Every choice becomes laden with tension. Every moment carries imagined weight. Every opportunity feels like a test, and yet, in the act of clinging, the mind actually obstructs the very clarity we seek. Anxiety grows from this pressure, from the compulsion to manage the unpredictable. Overthinking becomes the mind's relentless attempt to engineer certainty in a world that is inherently fluid. And in that attempt, the mind exhausts itself, while insight, guidance, and true direction remain obscured. Release, then, is an act of trust. It is the conscious choice to observe life as it is, to recognize the impermanence of thought, and to relinquish the illusion that control equals safety. It is not resignation. It is participation in life from a higher vantage point. By releasing, you allow life to move through you rather than around your resistance. You create space for intuition to speak, for insight to arise, and for synchronicities to occur in ways that the mind alone could never orchestrate. The law of release transforms the way we relate to time. Overthinking compresses moments, making them feel urgent, critical, and overwhelming. Every decision seems monumental, every second fraught with consequence. But when you release, time expands, pressure dissipates. The past no longer chains you, and the future is no longer a source of anxiety. You enter the present more fully, aware that the moments you once resisted are part of a larger intelligence unfolding with precision and purpose. This is not coincidence or luck. It is the universe responding to the openness created by your release. Release also transforms the mind itself. Anxiety, fear, and overthinking are symptoms of identification, the mistaken belief that the self must dictate life's outcomes to remain safe or whole. By observing thoughts without clinging, by letting go of the need to orchestrate every detail, you reclaim the mind as a tool, a mirror of perception, rather than a dictator of reality. You step into a state of alignment where clarity is no longer a product of effort but a natural emergence. Decisions feel lighter, energy flows more freely, and a profound sense of inner authority replaces the tension of control. The act of letting go is deeply practical as well as mystical. Each time you release a thought, a worry, or a desire for control, you reinforce the law of release in your daily life. Anxiety no longer dictates action. Insight guides it. Patterns begin to reveal themselves with astonishing clarity. The smallest moments once overlooked now hold guidance. Doors open without force, Connections and opportunities emerge as though life itself is responding to the energy of your surrender. Furthermore, the law of release creates a profound relational effect. When we release, we stop projecting our fears and expectations onto people and circumstances. We stop attempting to manipulate outcomes or control how others behave. Instead, we enter into a state of presence, where interactions are guided by clarity rather than fear, and influence flows naturally rather than being forced. Trust becomes a lived experience, not just a concept. Ultimately, the law of release teaches that life does not respond to force. It responds to alignment. It is a principle as simple as it is profound. The more you resist, the more entangled and anxious you become. The more you release, the more clarity, flow, and guidance emerge. True mastery is not control, but surrender, an awareness that letting go is not weakness, but the most potent form of strength. When you let go, you step fully into the rhythm of life. The hidden intelligence that has always been guiding you reveals itself, and the genuine path, previously obscured by tension and overthinking, becomes unmistakably clear. In this release, you discover freedom. Freedom from the mind's tyranny, freedom from anxiety's grip, freedom to move in harmony with life itself. And in that freedom, the universe ceases to be something you fight against and becomes a companion, guiding with subtlety, precision, and grace. Here, in the space created by letting go, insight arises effortlessly, intuition speaks clearly, and the path of authenticity is revealed as it has always existed, waiting quietly for your willingness to release and allow it to manifest. Perhaps you recognize yourself in this struggle. Perhaps you have lain awake at night, consumed by thoughts that seem to spiral endlessly, questioning your decisions, fearing what might come, wondering whether you are doing enough, being enough, or living the life you were meant to live. These moments of inner turbulence are not signs of failure, they are invitations. They are signals from your deeper self, calling you to a higher level of awareness. Anxiety is not an enemy to be fought or silenced. It is a messenger, revealing where you have been clinging too tightly to outcomes, to plans, to the imagined control of life. It is telling you that it is time to meet yourself, to look beyond the illusions of thought, and to reconnect with the deeper intelligence within. Meeting yourself requires courage because it asks you to face aspects of your being that you may have been avoiding. It asks you to witness your fears, your insecurities, and your mental patterns without judgment. These shadows, though uncomfortable, are not your enemies. They are pieces of yourself that have been trying to communicate, trying to guide, trying to be seen. Overthinking often arises because the mind is attempting to solve a problem that is not purely intellectual. It is a problem of alignment, of presence, of connection with your own soul. By observing these thoughts without becoming entangled in them, by noticing them as they are rather than as threats, you begin to reclaim a relationship with yourself that is authentic, compassionate, and wise. In meeting yourself, you recognize that your value, your direction, and your clarity do not depend on constant productivity, constant analysis, or constant problem solving. You are not your thoughts, your fears, or your anxiety. You are the awareness in which these experiences arise. This distinction is subtle but transformational. When you feel anxiety, you are no longer overwhelmed by it. Instead, you witness it. When you notice self-doubt, you see it as a passing cloud in the sky of your consciousness rather than as a permanent condition. The moment you begin to meet yourself in this way, you discover an inner space that has always existed, a quiet, resilient presence that is not shaken by the turbulence of thought or circumstance. Meeting yourself is also a profound act of empathy for your own journey. You begin to see that the struggle, the overthinking, the anxious nights, they are not signs that you are failing, but proof that you are awake, that you are seeking, that you are willing to engage with life's depth rather than skimming its surface. This recognition transforms your relationship with your own experience. You begin to treat your mind with patience, your emotions with understanding, and your soul with reverence. You stop forcing yourself to be something you are not, and you start allowing yourself to unfold naturally, guided by the intelligence of life itself, rather than the tyranny of mental pressure. This process also reveals your connection to others and to the world around you. When you meet yourself fully, without judgment and with presence, you become more capable of genuine empathy, understanding, and connection. Your interactions are no longer dictated by fear, overanalysis, or reactive patterns. Instead, you respond from alignment, clarity, and a grounded awareness of who you are. The anxiety that once dictated your choices loses its hold, replaced by the guidance of a deeper, quieter authority that is inherently aligned with life's flow. Ultimately, meeting yourself is about reclaiming your life from the endless chatter of overthinking. It is about stepping out of the illusion that control and certainty are necessary, and stepping into the reality that clarity, direction, and peace emerge naturally when you allow yourself to observe, release, and align. It is in this intimate encounter with your own consciousness that you realize something profound. The genuine path has never been lost, and the wisdom you seek has always been present within. Anxiety, overthinking, and fear are not obstacles. They are mirrors, reflecting the parts of yourself that have been waiting to be acknowledged, integrated, and guided. Through this process, you cultivate a sense of presence that permeates every aspect of your life. You are no longer swept away by mental currents, nor are you trapped by imagined outcomes. Instead, you navigate with clarity, grounded in your own awareness, and guided by a subtle intelligence that has always been at work. Meeting yourself is a quiet revolution, a reclamation of authority over your inner world, and a profound opening to the genuine path that has always awaited you. It is in this meeting, in this conscious alignment with your true self, that you finally begin to feel the freedom, clarity, and guidance that overthinking has long obscured. Now imagine a simple yet profound shift in your approach to life. The conscious choice to surrender. This is not surrender in the sense of giving up, retreating, or abandoning responsibility. It is an awakening to the understanding that life, in its infinite intelligence, does not require your constant manipulation or control. Surrender is the practice of aligning with the natural flow of existence, allowing events, circumstances, and even your own thoughts to move through you without interference. It is the art of participation rather than domination, the willingness to step out of the mental grip that anxiety and overthinking impose, and to enter into a rhythm far wiser than the mind alone can generate. When the mind spins with endless scenarios, possibilities, and fears, it produces tension that clouds perception. Surrender begins with noticing this tension without judgment. It begins with a willingness to observe thoughts and feelings as they arise, without identifying with them, without insisting that they define your reality. In this space of observation, a subtle, profound shift occurs. The compulsion to control relaxes, the mind softens, and clarity begins to emerge naturally. Insight, once obscured by mental chatter, reveals itself effortlessly. Events that previously seemed chaotic now align in a way that feels orchestrated, precise, and intelligent. Surrender is an active engagement, not passive resignation. Each moment you release the grip of overthinking, you reinforce this alignment. When anxiety arises, you do not resist it. When doubt appears, you do not battle it. Instead, you witness it, allowing it to move through awareness rather than through struggle. This practice creates a space where intuition can speak, where guidance can enter, and where the intelligence of life can operate unhindered. The very act of letting go of control invites synchronicity, clarity, and flow that the mind alone cannot create. In practical terms, surrender can be woven into every aspect of life. It begins with simple, conscious acts. When a decision feels overwhelming, you pause, breathe, and release the need to force an immediate outcome. When a conversation triggers anxiety, you observe your thoughts and emotions without reacting. When plans change, you allow the unfolding without resisting or trying to impose order. These small acts, repeated over time, cultivate a habitual alignment with life's intelligence. They train the mind to recognize that clarity does not come from struggle but from release, that guidance does not come from control but from presence. Surrender also transforms your relationship with time, with events, and with other people. It softens the rigidity with which we approach outcomes, reducing the pressure that makes each decision feel monumental. It dissolves the illusion that life must be forced into a preordained structure and replaces it with the understanding that flow, when honored, produces results far more harmonious and effective than effort alone could achieve. It teaches patience, not as passivity, but as an active trust in the intelligence underlying all unfolding. Perhaps the most profound effect of surrender is on the self. Anxiety and overthinking arise from identification, the sense that you must control life to be safe, to succeed, or to be complete. Surrender dissolves this identification, allowing the observer within to take its rightful place. You begin to see yourself as the awareness in which life unfolds rather than the controller of events. In this perspective, clarity, peace, and authentic direction are no longer products of effort. They emerge naturally as life aligns with your willingness to release. The practice of surrender is not a single act, but a continuous cultivation. Each thought released, each tension softened, each expectation let go, strengthens your alignment with life's deeper intelligence. Moments of clarity, guidance, and effortless insight become increasingly frequent. The path forward, once obscured by anxiety and mental clutter, reveals itself with astonishing precision. Life, once felt as a chaotic struggle, transforms into a river that carries you with intelligence, grace, and subtle precision. Ultimately, surrender is the bridge between overthinking and authenticity, between anxiety and guidance, between the illusion of control and the reality of alignment. It is the conscious recognition that the genuine path is revealed not through effort, force, or obsession, but through presence, observation, and the willing release of control. By practicing surrender, you open yourself to the flow of life, the intelligence of the universe, and the subtle guidance that has always been available. It is in this space, this quiet alignment, that freedom, clarity, and the authentic path begin to emerge, showing you the way forward in ways the mind could never manufacture. In the quiet space beyond thought, beyond the relentless swirl of overthinking, there exists a stillness that has always been present, waiting patiently for you to notice it. It is not created by effort, nor discovered through analysis. It is revealed the moment you release the compulsion to control, the need to force clarity, and the insistence that life unfold according to the mind's schedule. This stillness is not empty. It is vibrant, alive with intelligence, aware of every nuance, every shift, every subtle rhythm that guides the universe. It is in this space that the genuine path, the authentic journey of your being, reveals itself with astonishing clarity. When overthinking dissolves, the mind ceases to dominate your perception. The constant tension and imagined catastrophes fade, leaving a calm, expansive field in which insight and guidance naturally arise. You begin to perceive life as it truly is, fluid, intelligent, and responsive. Events and encounters no longer feel random or overwhelming. They feel orchestrated, meaningful, aligned. In this stillness, the intelligence of life speaks, not in words or calculations, but in subtle whispers, in gentle nudges, in the quiet unfolding of circumstance that guides without force. The world itself seems to respond to the quiet attention of your awareness. This stillness is not merely a state of mind, it is the doorway to transformation. Anxiety, fear, and uncertainty lose their power not because they are denied, but because the observer within claims its authority. The self, once entangled in the illusions of control and prediction, rests in a space of profound awareness. From here, every choice, every encounter, every step is informed by a clarity that transcends calculation. The path becomes visible, not as a line imposed by intellect, but as a natural unfolding that resonates with your deepest being. Within this space, the relationship between effort and guidance shifts. You realize that life does not respond to struggle or obsession, it responds to presence. Control, once thought essential, becomes unnecessary. The stillness allows life itself to carry you forward, revealing doors that the mind could never force open. Each insight, each moment of alignment is a product of this deep attunement, a dialogue between your awareness and the intelligence of existence. Here, in this quiet, you discover that clarity is not manufactured, it is allowed. Direction is not imposed, it is revealed. The stillness also illuminates the subtle layers of your own consciousness. You begin to see how overthinking, anxiety, and mental tension once obscured perception, masking the truth of your authentic path. You recognize that the mind's obsession with control was never a measure of intelligence, but a defense against uncertainty. In the quiet beyond this pattern, you meet a version of yourself unburdened, capable of perceiving life as it truly is, rich with potential, guided by unseen intelligence and unfolding in perfect timing. This stillness, once accessed, transforms the way you live. You move through the world with a quiet authority, guided by intuition rather than compulsion, by insight rather than fear. Challenges are no longer obstacles, but opportunities to practice presence. Decisions arise from clarity rather than anxiety. Moments of connection, creativity, and inspiration flow naturally, aligned with the deeper currents that have always been at work. The path that once seemed hidden by mental clutter now reveals itself effortlessly, because it has never truly been lost. It has only been obscured. Ultimately, the stillness that opens all doors is the culmination of the journey, the conscious recognition that the mind, while brilliant, is not the master of your existence. True mastery comes not from forcing life to conform to thought, but from allowing life to operate through alignment and awareness. In this quiet, in this surrender, the genuine path unfolds, revealing the intelligence, beauty, and subtle magic that has always existed, waiting for your willingness to stop resisting and start observing. Here, in this sacred space, you understand something profound. The universe does not demand your constant intervention. Clarity is not earned through struggle. Freedom is not manufactured through control. The stillness itself, your willingness to release and observe, becomes the ultimate guide. Doors open without effort. Paths appear without force. Life moves in harmony with your presence. And in this timeless space between thought and surrender, you finally recognize the profound truth that has always been waiting. The genuine path is not something to be found, but something to be allowed, unfolding naturally through the quiet intelligence of life itself.